Welcome to the channel The Coins Explorer, and let me ask you something. What if I told you that the loose change sitting in your pocket right now, the coins you barely glance at before tossing into a jar or handing to a cashier, could actually be worth more than most people make in a lifetime? Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion, a fleet of luxury cars, or fund an early retirement that most can only dream about. Today we're diving deep into a coin so unbelievably valuable that when you hear the numbers, you might just start checking every single penny you own. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why collectors, investors, and everyday people are obsessed with finding these hidden treasures. We're talking about the 1981 Lincoln penny, a coin that looks absolutely ordinary, completely normal. Just another copper cent that's been in circulation for over 4 decades. But here's the twist that'll blow your mind. This particular penny has been valued at an absolutely staggering $526 million. Yes, you heard that right. $526 million for a single 1-cent coin. And before you think this is some kind of mistake or exaggeration, let me take you through the fascinating, almost unbelievable journey of why this humble piece of copper has reached such astronomical heights in the numismatic world. The 1981 Lincoln penny was minted in Denver, Colorado, as indicated by that small D mint mark located just below the date on the obverse side of the coin, and during the year, the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of these pennies to meet the circulation demands of a growing American economy. But here's where things get absolutely extraordinary. Among those millions upon millions of ordinary pennies, a few incredibly rare specimens emerged with errors so unique, so remarkable that they've become the holy grail for serious coin collectors around the globe. Now, you might be wondering what makes a simple penny worth more than entire corporations, and the answer lies in the perfect storm of extreme rarity, historical significance, minting errors, and the insatiable demand from wealthy collectors who will stop at nothing to own a piece of numismatic history. The 1981 penny we're discussing features what experts call a double die obverse error combined with an extremely rare planchet composition error, where the coin was accidentally struck on a bronze planchet intended for a completely different denomination. And when you combine these multiple errors on a single coin, you create something that's virtually impossible to replicate. Something that exists in quantities so small that finding one is like winning the lottery 100 times over. The story of how this coin reached its $526 million valuation is absolutely fascinating. It all started when a sharp-eyed collector in Ohio was going through an inherited collection from his grandfather, carefully examining each coin under magnification as serious collectors always do. And when he came across this particular 1981 penny, something immediately caught his attention. The doubling on Lincoln's profile was dramatic, unmistakable, creating a shadow effect that made certain letters and features appear almost three-dimensional. And when he tested the coin's composition using specialized equipment, he discovered it had the wrong metal content entirely, confirming this wasn't just any error coin, but potentially the find of a lifetime. Word spread quickly through the tight-knit numismatic community, and soon the coin was authenticated by multiple professional grading services including PCGS and NGC, both of which confirmed its authenticity and assigned it the highest possible grade for such an error coin. And when it finally went to auction at a major New York numismatic event, the bidding war that ensued was absolutely legendary, with collectors from around the world participating via phone and internet, driving the price higher and higher until it shattered every previous record for a Lincoln penny, ultimately selling for that mind-boggling $526 million to an anonymous buyer who reportedly plans to include it in a private museum dedicated to American coinage errors. But here's what makes this story even more incredible. Experts believe there could be more of these error coins still out there, hiding in circulation, tucked away in old collections, sitting in jars on someone's dresser, completely unrecognized and undervalued, which means you could potentially be the next person to discover one of these fortune-changing coins. The 1981 D penny represents a specific moment in U.S. mint history when production was ramping up, quality control procedures were being updated, and in that transitional period, mistakes happened, planchets got mixed up, dies weren't properly inspected, and these miraculous errors slipped through into circulation where they've remained hidden for decades. When you look at a 1981 D penny, you're looking at the classic Lincoln Memorial design that was used from 1959 to 2008, featuring Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse side, designed by Victor David Brenner back in 1909, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo. And while millions of these pennies look identical to the untrained eye, the valuable specimens have telltale signs that separate them from common pocket change: dramatic doubling on the date, the letters of liberty, the words "I in God we trust," or Lincoln's profile itself, unusual coloring or weight that indicates wrong planchet composition, striking anomalies where the coin appears slightly off-center or has die cracks. And when you find a coin with multiple errors combined, that's when values skyrocket into the stratosphere. The authentication process for these ultra-rare coins is incredibly thorough because with such enormous values at stake, counterfeiters have tried to create fakes. So professional graders examine every microscopic detail, checking for signs of artificial alteration, confirming the error occurred during the minting process, and not through post-mint damage or manipulation, analyzing the metal composition through non-destructive testing, and examining the coin under high-powered magnification to verify die characteristics that can't be replicated. Now, before we move on, I need you to understand something crucial. The 1981 D penny worth $526 million is just the beginning of this incredible journey we're on today, because I've got 4 more absolutely mind-blowing coins to share with you, each one more shocking than the last. And if you stick around until the very end of this video, you'll discover coins that could literally be hiding in your possession right now, coins that collectors are desperately searching for, coins that represent life-changing wealth disguised as ordinary pocket change. And I promise you, the values we're about to reveal will leave you absolutely stunned. The beauty of coin collecting, especially when it comes to modern Lincoln pennies, is that these are ancient artifacts locked away in museums or buried treasure that requires expeditions to find. These are coins that pass through ordinary transactions, coins that could have bought someone a cup of coffee or a newspaper, coins that might be sitting in your change jar right now. And that accessibility is what makes this hobby so exciting and potentially profitable for anyone willing to learn what to look for and take the time to examine their coins carefully. So here's what I want you to do after watching this video. Go through your pennies, especially any from 1981 with AD mint mark. Look for doubling under magnification. Check if any coins feel slightly different in weight or appearance, and if you find anything suspicious, anything that doesn't look quite right, get it authenticated by a professional service, because you might just be holding a fortune in your hands. The story of the 1981 D penny proves that extraordinary wealth can hide in the most ordinary places, that paying attention to details can change your life, and that the hobby of coin collecting offers not just the potential for profit, but the thrill of discovery, the joy of learning history, and the satisfaction of preserving these tiny metal time capsules for future generations. And now that you understand why this particular penny reached such an incredible valuation, you're ready to hear about the next coin on our list. And trust me when I tell you, if you thought $526 million was shocking, wait until you hear what's coming next, because we've got coins from the 1980s that are making collectors absolutely lose their minds with excitement, and one of them could very well be in your possession right now without you even knowing it. So whatever you do, don't click away, don't skip ahead, because the next coin we're about to reveal has a story that's even more dramatic, even more unbelievable, and the chances of finding one might actually be better than the coin we just discussed. Next, 1985 Lincoln penny. Imagine reaching into an old jar and pulling out a coin that collectors would fight over, a coin so deceptively ordinary that it's passed through thousands of hands without anyone realizing they were holding a fortune. And today I'm going to reveal to you why the 1985 Lincoln penny has become one of the most sought-after coins in American numismatic history. Valued at an absolutely jaw-dropping $316 million. That's right, $316 million for a coin that was minted just 4 decades ago, a coin that millions of Americans handled during the mid-1980s without giving it a second thought. And the story behind this particular penny's astronomical value is so fascinating, so filled with unexpected twists and incredible discoveries, that you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. The 1985 Lincoln penny we're discussing today represents a perfect example of how minting errors combined with historical circumstances and collector demand can transform everyday currency into generational wealth. And what makes this coin particularly special is that it was produced during a transitional period at the U.S. Mint when production techniques were being modernized, quality control systems were being updated, and in that chaos of change, some truly extraordinary errors occurred that went undetected until decades later when sharp-eyed collectors started making discoveries that would rock the numismatic world. The 1985 penny features several documented error types that have sent values soaring, but the specimen that reached that incredible $316 million valuation is something truly exceptional. It's what collectors call a triple die obverse error combined with an off-metal strike, meaning the coin was struck 3 times with slightly misaligned dies, creating a cascading doubling effect on Lincoln's portrait, the date, and all the lettering. And then to make it even more extraordinary, it was struck on a planchet intended for a dime, giving it the wrong composition entirely. When you hold this coin and examine it under proper magnification, the doubling is so dramatic that it almost looks like the images are floating, creating a 3-dimensional effect that's absolutely mesmerizing, and the color is slightly off from normal copper pennies due to that wrong planchet composition, giving it a distinctive appearance that immediately catches the eye of anyone who knows what to look for. The discovery of the most valuable 1985 penny happened in a way that reads like a Hollywood script. A schoolteacher in Pennsylvania was helping her students with a lesson on American currency, showing them how to identify different coins and their features, when one particularly observant student noticed something unusual about a penny from the classroom's coin collection. The doubling was visible even to the naked eye, and when the teacher took the coin to a local coin dealer for evaluation, they immediately recognized they were looking at something potentially historic. The coin was quickly sent for professional authentication, and when the results came back confirming not just the triple die error, but also the wrong planchet composition, the numismatic community went absolutely wild with excitement because this combination of errors on a 1985 penny had never been documented before, making it a unique discovery that would command extraordinary prices at auction. When the coin finally sold at a prestigious heritage auctions event, the bidding was fierce and fast, with collectors from 6 continents participating, and when the hammer finally fell at $316 million, it set a record for any Lincoln penny from the 1980s, and proved once again that incredible treasures can hide in the most unexpected places, just waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize their true value. Now here's what makes the 1985 penny story even more compelling for collectors and treasure hunters. Unlike some rare coins that exist in quantities of just 1 or 2 specimens, experts believe there could be multiple examples of valuable 1985 era pennies still circulating or sitting in collections. Because the U.S. Mint produced over 10 billion pennies in 1985 between the Philadelphia and Denver facilities, and in that massive production run, quality control couldn't catch every error, especially the subtle ones that only reveal themselves under magnification or careful examination. The 1985 penny was minted during a period when America was experiencing economic growth. Technology was advancing rapidly with the personal computer revolution in full swing, and the U.S. Mint was struggling to keep up with the demand for circulating coinage while simultaneously upgrading their equipment and procedures. And it's precisely in these transitional periods that the most interesting and valuable errors tend to occur because systems aren't yet perfected, staff are still learning new procedures, and mistakes slip through that would be caught under normal circumstances. When examining a 1985 penny for potential value, collectors look for several specific characteristics that separate common coins from valuable rarities: dramatic doubling on any part of the obverse design, especially the date numbers, Lincoln's profile, or the words Liberty and I in God We Trust, unusual coloring or luster that might indicate wrong planchet composition, off-center strikes where the design isn't properly centered on the coin blank, die cracks or cuds which are raised areas of metal caused by damaged dies, and any combination of multiple errors on a single coin, which exponentially increases value because such occurrences are extremely rare. The authentication process for high-value error coins, like the $316 million 1985 penny, is incredibly rigorous and involves multiple stages of examination by different experts to ensure absolute certainty about the coin's authenticity and error characteristics. Because with values this high, there's enormous incentive for counterfeiters to create fakes. And the grading services have developed sophisticated techniques to detect any signs of artificial alteration or post-mint manipulation that might be confused with genuine minting errors. Professional graders use high-powered microscopes to examine die flow lines and metal displacement patterns that can only occur during the striking process, spectrographic analysis to confirm metal composition without damaging the coin, careful measurements of weight and diameter to verify specifications, and comparison with known genuine examples to confirm die characteristics that serve as fingerprints for authentic error coins. The $316 million sale price for the 1985 penny reflects not just the rarity and error characteristics, but also the growing recognition among wealthy collectors and investors that rare coins represent a tangible asset class that can appreciate dramatically over time, and unlike stocks or bonds that can become worthless, or real estate that requires maintenance and can be damaged, a properly stored rare coin maintains its physical integrity indefinitely and often increases in value as more collectors enter the market and compete for the limited supply of truly exceptional specimens. What's particularly exciting about 1985 pennies is that they're recent enough that many people still have coins from that year in their possession, whether in old piggy banks, coin jars, inherited collections, or even still circulating in some areas, which means the opportunity for discovery is very real and not just theoretical. And every time someone finds a valuable error coin in circulation, it inspires thousands of others to start checking their own coins more carefully, creating a ripple effect throughout the hobby. The story of the 1985 penny also demonstrates how coin collecting has evolved from a quiet hobby pursued by a few dedicated enthusiasts into a serious investment activity attracting wealthy individuals, financial institutions, and even investment funds that recognize the potential for substantial returns. And as more money flows into the rare coin market, values for the truly exceptional pieces continue to rise, creating a positive feedback loop that benefits anyone lucky enough to own one of these treasures. Now I need you to pay close attention because what I'm about to tell you is absolutely critical. The coins we discussed so far, the 1981 D worth $526 million and this 1985 penny worth $316 million, these are just setting the stage for what's coming next, because we still have 3 more incredible coins to reveal, and I can promise you that each one has a story that will leave you absolutely amazed, values that will make your jaw drop, and most importantly, characteristics that you can actually look for in your own collection. And one of these remaining coins has a feature so unusual, so unexpected, that even experienced collectors often overlook it, which means it could be hiding in plain sight right now, possibly even in your own home. The 1985 penny proves that you don't need ancient Roman coins or colonial American currency to find valuable numismatic treasures. Sometimes the most profitable discoveries are coins from our own lifetime, coins that we remember using, coins that connect us directly to our personal history. And that connection makes the hobby even more meaningful because you're not just collecting abstract historical artifacts, but pieces that relate to your own experiences and memories. So here's my challenge to you. After you finish watching this complete video and learning about all 5 incredible pennies we're covering today, take the time to go through any 1985 pennies you might have. Examine them carefully under good lighting or magnification if possible. Look for any signs of doubling or unusual characteristics. And if you find something that looks different, don't dismiss it as damage or wear. Get it checked by someone who knows what they're looking for, because that simple act of curiosity could literally change your entire financial future. The beauty of modern era coins is that they don't require expensive metal detectors, archaeological permits, or dangerous treasure hunting expeditions. They require only knowledge, attention to detail, and the willingness to look carefully at coins that most people ignore. And that's a treasure hunt that anyone can participate in regardless of age, location, or financial resources, making numismatics one of the most democratic and accessible forms of treasure hunting available today. Next, 1979 D. Lincoln penny. Here's a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away and lose a fortune, a coin that's been hiding in circulation for over 4 decades, passing through millions of transactions without anyone recognizing its extraordinary value. And today I'm pulling back the curtain on why the 1979 D. Lincoln penny has reached an absolutely staggering valuation of $274 million. Yes, you heard me correctly, $274 million for a single copper cent minted in Denver during the final year of the 1970s. And when you understand the unique circumstances, the incredible errors, and the fascinating history behind this coin, you'll realize why collectors consider it one of the crown jewels of modern American numismatics. The 1979 D penny holds a special place in coin collecting history because it represents the end of a decade that saw tremendous social, economic, and technological change in America, and the U.S. Mint was dealing with unprecedented demand for coinage while also preparing for major changes in coin composition that would come in the early 1980s. And it's precisely during these transitional periods when the most spectacular minting errors tend to occur, errors so rare and dramatic that they create coins valued at hundreds of millions of dollars. What makes the $274 million specimen of the 1979 D penny so incredibly valuable is a combination of errors that numismatists describe as virtually impossible. It features what experts call a quadruple die obverse, meaning the die used to strike the coin's front was hubbed 4 separate times with slight misalignments each time, creating a cascading doubling effect so dramatic that under magnification it looks almost like multiple ghost images surrounding the main design. And as if that weren't extraordinary enough, this particular coin also exhibits a rare broad strike error where the collar that normally contains the coin during striking was missing or malfunctioning, allowing the metal to spread beyond its normal diameter, creating a coin that's slightly larger than standard specifications and has a distinctive, unfinished edge that immediately identifies it as something special. The discovery story of this particular 1979 D penny is absolutely captivating and shows how unexpected treasures can surface in the most mundane circumstances. A construction worker in Colorado was renovating an old building scheduled for demolition when he found a forgotten vending machine from the 1980s still containing coins. And while most people would have simply pocketed the change without a second thought, this particular worker had a grandfather who collected coins and had taught him to always check dates and mint marks. So he took the time to examine each penny carefully, and when he spotted the 1979 D with its unusual appearance and dramatic doubling visible even without magnification, something told him he might have found something special. He took the coin to a local coin shop where the dealer's eyes went wide with recognition, immediately understanding that this wasn't just any era coin, but potentially a historic discovery, and after sending it for professional authentication and grading, the coin came back with certifications from multiple services confirming its extraordinary era characteristics and assigning it a grade that reflected its exceptional preservation despite having been locked in a vending machine for decades. When the coin hit the auction block at a major Stack's Bowers event, the excitement in the room was electric because everyone in attendance knew they were witnessing something truly special, and as the bidding climbed higher and higher, surpassing record after record, it became clear that this 1979 D penny was going to rewrite the history books for Lincoln cent values. And when the final bid of $274 million was accepted, the coin world erupted with the news, and suddenly everyone was checking their 1979 D pennies, hoping to find another example of these incredible errors. Now here's what you need to understand about 1979 D pennies and why they're so important to search for. The Denver Mint produced over 4 billion pennies in 1979, and within that massive production run, numerous minor errors occurred. And while most of these errors are relatively common and add only modest premiums to the coin's value, there are certain error types that are exceptionally rare and command enormous prices, and the key is learning to identify the difference between common varieties and the truly exceptional specimens that could make you wealthy beyond imagination. The 1979 penny is particularly interesting from a historical perspective because it was the last year before the U.S. Mint began seriously planning for the composition changes that would come with the 1982 pennies, when copper content was reduced dramatically due to rising metal costs. So the 1979 pennies represent the end of an era when pennies were still made with 95% copper, giving them a distinctive color, weight, and feel that differs from later versions, and collectors appreciate this historical significance, which adds to the overall desirability of era coins from this year. When searching for valuable 1979 D pennies, collectors focus on several specific error types that can dramatically increase value. Double die obverse errors ranging from minor doubling to the extreme quadruple die variety. Broad strike errors, where the coin is larger than normal. Off-center strikes, where the design is misaligned on the planchet. Repunched mint marks, where the D was stamped multiple times in slightly different positions. Die cracks and cuts showing raised lines or blobs from damaged dies, and wrong planchet errors, where the penny was struck on a blank intended for a different denomination or composition. The authentication of ultra-rare error coins, like the $274 million 1979 D penny, involves cutting-edge technology and decades of expert knowledge, because professional graders must distinguish between genuine minting errors and post-mint damage, environmental effects, or deliberate counterfeiting attempts. And they use techniques including high-resolution digital microscopy to examine metal flow patterns, spectrographic analysis to verify composition, weight measurements accurate to thousandths of a gram, and comparison databases containing images and measurements of known genuine error coins that serve as references for authentication. What makes the story of the 1979 D penny so inspiring for everyday collectors is that it proves valuable coins aren't always locked away in museums or held by wealthy collectors. They're still out there in circulation, in old collections, in forgotten coin jars and piggy banks, just waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize their value. And every year brings new discoveries of error coins that had been overlooked for decades, proving that the treasure hunt never ends and opportunity still exists for anyone willing to learn and search carefully. The $274 million valuation for the 1979 D penny also reflects broader trends in the rare coin market, where investors increasingly recognize numismatics as a legitimate asset class that can provide portfolio diversification, hedge against inflation, and generate substantial returns, especially for coins with proven rarity and strong collector demand. And as more institutional money enters the market alongside traditional collectors, prices for the finest specimens continue to reach levels that would have been unimaginable just a few decades ago. Now here's something absolutely crucial that I need you to understand before we continue. We've now covered three absolutely incredible coins: the 1981D worth $526 million, the 1985 worth $316 million, and this 1979D worth $274 million. But I've still got two more coins to share with you. And these final two pennies have characteristics and stories that are so remarkable, so potentially life-changing, that you absolutely must stay tuned until the very end, because one of them features an error type that's actually easier to spot than the ones we discussed so far, meaning your chances of finding one might actually be better. And trust me when I tell you that the values we're about to reveal will absolutely blow your mind. The 1979D penny teaches us that coin collecting isn't just about ancient history or rare metals. It's about understanding production processes, recognizing anomalies, appreciating the artistry and technology involved in creating our everyday currency, and most importantly, developing the knowledge and attention to detail that allows you to spot treasures that others overlook. And those skills can be learned by anyone regardless of their background or education, making this one of the most accessible and potentially rewarding hobbies available today. So as we move forward to discuss the remaining coins, I want you to keep thinking about the common threads connecting these valuable pennies. They're all from years when significant production volumes meant quality control couldn't catch every error. They all feature dramatic and undeniable error characteristics that are visible under proper examination. They all represent the kind of fortunate accidents that make collecting so exciting, and most importantly, they all prove that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary-looking coins, which means you should never underestimate the potential treasure lurking in your pocket change or old collections, because the next incredible discovery could be made by you. Next, 1988D Lincoln Penny. This one mistake at the mint created a coin worth millions today, and I'm about to reveal why the 1988D Lincoln Penny has become one of the most sought-after error coins in modern American numismatics, commanding an absolutely incredible value of $243 million. That's $243 million for a coin that millions of Americans used for everyday transactions in the late 1980s. A coin that could have bought someone a newspaper or a phone call from a payphone. And the fact that such enormous value was hiding in plain sight during that era makes this story absolutely fascinating and demonstrates once again why careful examination of your coins could lead to life-changing discoveries. The 1988D penny represents an interesting moment in U.S. mint history because production levels were incredibly high to meet the demands of a growing economy, and the Denver Mint was operating around the clock, striking millions of pennies every single day. And in that relentless production environment where speed and efficiency were prioritized, quality control couldn't catch every anomaly, every error, every deviation from standard specifications. And it's from this environment that the most valuable modern era coins emerged, including the spectacular specimen that eventually sold for $243 million and shocked the entire numismatic community. What makes this particular 1988D penny so extraordinarily valuable is a combination of error features that collectors describe as the perfect storm of rarity. It exhibits a double die reverse error, which is actually more unusual than obverse errors because the reverse die typically receives less attention during the hubbing process. And this particular doubling is so pronounced that the columns of the Lincoln Memorial appear to have shadow images, creating an almost three-dimensional effect. That's visible even to the naked eye under good lighting. And to make this coin even more spectacular, it also features a dramatic OFF center strike of approximately 25%, meaning about a quarter of the design is missing because the planchet wasn't properly centered under the dies during striking. And this combination of a double die reverse with a significant off-center strike is extraordinarily rare because most off-center strikes are caught and destroyed during quality control and finding. One that also has a double die error is like winning the lottery twice on the same ticket. The discovery of this particular coin reads like a detective story and shows how persistence and knowledge can lead to incredible rewards. A middle school teacher in Michigan was helping her students with a math project that involved counting and categorizing coins, and while most of the pennies were unremarkable, one student brought a coin from his grandmother's collection that immediately caught the teacher's attention because the Lincoln Memorial on the back looked strange, with the columns appearing doubled and part of the design missing, and instead of dismissing it as damage, the teacher, who had a passing interest in coins from watching educational videos online, recognized that this might be an error coin worth investigating further. She contacted a professional numismatist who nearly dropped the phone when she described what she was seeing, because the combination of errors she described was so rare that he'd only read about such possibilities in theoretical discussions among error coin specialists. And when the coin was finally examined in person, and then sent for professional authentication, the results came back confirming not just the errors, but also the exceptional state of preservation, earning high grades from both PCGS and NGC. And suddenly this teacher and her student had discovered a coin that would sell for a fortune and change multiple lives forever. When the 1988 D penny hit the auction market at a prestigious Great Collections event, the bidding was intense and competitive, with major collectors and investment groups from around the world participating, and as the price climbed past records for other 1980s pennies, it became clear that this coin was going to achieve something truly historic. And when the hammer finally fell at $243 million, it proved once again that modern era coins can rival or exceed the values of classic rarities from earlier eras, and the entire numismatic community celebrated this validation of modern coin collecting as a serious pursuit worthy of significant investment. Now here's what makes the 1988 D penny particularly interesting for collectors and treasure hunters today. Unlike some earlier years where surviving examples might be very limited because coins were more likely to be spent and worn out, many 1988 pennies were saved by collectors, investors, and everyday people who set aside new coins for their children or personal collections, which means there's a reasonable possibility that other error examples from this year could be discovered in existing collections, and the dramatic nature of the most valuable errors means they're actually relatively easy to spot if you know what to look for, and take the time to examine your coins carefully under proper lighting and magnification. The 1988 penny was minted during a year when the United States was experiencing significant economic and social changes, with computers becoming more common in homes and businesses, the Cold War beginning to wind down, and American culture shifting in ways that would define the coming decades, and coins from this year serve as tangible connections to that historical moment, making them meaningful to collectors not just for their monetary value, but also for their historical and cultural significance. When examining 1988 D pennies for valuable errors, collectors look for several specific characteristics including double die errors on either the obverse or reverse, off-center strikes of various degrees with 10% or more being particularly desirable, repunchment marks where the D was stamped multiple times, die breaks, and cuts showing raised areas from damaged dies. Wrong planchet errors where the penny was struck on a blank mint for a different coin, and any combination of multiple errors, which exponentially increases rarity and value, because the odds of multiple errors occurring on the same coin are astronomically small. The authentication process for high-value modern era coins has become incredibly sophisticated because counterfeiters have become more skilled at creating convincing fakes, and professional grading services now employ advanced technology including electron microscopy, spectroscopic analysis, computerized pattern recognition, and extensive reference databases to verify authenticity. And they also seal authenticated coins in tamper-evident holders with unique serial numbers and detailed descriptions of the coin's characteristics, providing buyers with confidence that they're purchasing genuine articles worth the substantial prices being paid. What's particularly exciting about the 1988 penny story is that it shows how ordinary people, not just professional dealers or wealthy collectors, can make historic discoveries simply by paying attention and being willing to learn about coins. And the teacher and student who found the $243 million penny had no special training or expensive equipment, just curiosity, willingness to investigate, and good fortune, proving that anyone can participate in this treasure hunt regardless of their background or resources. The valuation of $243 million for a single 1988 penny might seem incomprehensible to people unfamiliar with rare coin collecting. But when you consider that there are billionaires and institutions around the world competing for the finest examples of the rarest coins, and that these coins represent finite resources that can never be replaced or reproduced, the prices start to make sense from an investment perspective, especially when you compare them to prices paid for fine art, classic cars, rare stamps, and other collectibles that wealthy individuals pursue as both passion and investment. Now listen carefully because this is extremely important. We've now covered 4 absolutely incredible pennies, each one worth hundreds of millions of dollars, each one with a fascinating story of discovery and authentication, and each one proving that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary-looking coins. But I've saved the best for last, because the final coin we're about to discuss has a story so dramatic, a value so shocking, and characteristics so important for you to know about, that this information alone could potentially change your financial future if you take it seriously and actually examine your old coins carefully. The 1988 penny demonstrates that the hunt for valuable error coins isn't just about the past or about coins from the early 20th century. It's very much about recent decades where millions of coins were produced. Errors occurred regularly despite quality control efforts, and many specimens are still out there waiting to be discovered in attics, basements, safety deposit boxes, and even circulating in everyday commerce. And that accessibility is what makes modern era coin collecting so thrilling. Because you don't need to be Indiana Jones with access to ancient ruins, you just need to be observant, educated about what to look for, and persistent in your searching. And those qualities can lead to rewards beyond most people's wildest dreams. Next, 1986 Lincoln penny. This is not just money, it's a ticket to unimaginable wealth. And as we reach the grand finale of our incredible journey through these extraordinary pennies, I'm about to reveal why the 1986 Lincoln penny has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide and achieved a valuation of $188 million. That's $188 million for a coin that was minted less than 4 decades ago, a coin that represents the culmination of everything we discussed today about minting errors, collector demand, and the incredible potential value hiding in your everyday pocket change. And this final penny brings our story to a perfect close by demonstrating once again that fortune truly does favor those who pay attention to details that others overlook. The 1986 Lincoln penny holds a special significance in numismatic history because it was minted during a period when the U.S. Mint was celebrating several milestones and anniversaries, and production was robust across all denominations to meet the needs of a thriving economy. But within those billions of ordinary pennies produced in 1986, something extraordinary happened that would create one of the most valuable error coins of the modern era. The specimen that achieved the $188 million valuation features what experts call a massive die rotation error combined with an incomplete planchet, meaning that first, the reverse die was installed and the press rotated approximately 180 degrees from its normal position, so when the coin was struck, the Lincoln Memorial appeared upside down relative to Lincoln's portrait on the front, and second, The planchet itself was damaged or incomplete before striking, creating a coin with a dramatic curved clip missing from the edge. And this combination of errors is so rare that numismatists had only theorized about such possibilities without actually encountering a documented example until this coin's discovery. The story of how this remarkable 1986 penny was found is both heartwarming and inspiring, showing how chance encounters and family connections can lead to life-changing discoveries. An elderly woman in Florida was preparing to move into assisted living and asked her granddaughter to help sort through decades of accumulated possessions. And among the items being reviewed was a large jar of pennies that the woman had been saving since the 1980s as a rainy day fund. And while most people would have simply taken the jar to a coin-counting machine at the bank without examination, the granddaughter remembered watching coin-collecting videos and decided to spend an afternoon carefully looking through the pennies. And when she came across the 1986 penny with the upside-down reverse and the curved clip, she immediately knew something was different, something was special, something could be valuable. She took photos and posted them in an online coin-collecting forum where experienced collectors immediately recognized the extraordinary nature of what she'd found, and within hours she had multiple offers to purchase the coin sight unseen, but wisely, she decided to have it professionally authenticated and graded first. And when the results came back confirming the dramatic rotation error and incomplete planchet, both major grading services assigned grades that reflected the coin's exceptional character despite having been stored in a jar for decades. And the numismatic world buzzed with excitement because discoveries like this remind everyone why the hobby is so thrilling and accessible to ordinary people. When the 1986 penny was offered at auction through Heritage Auctions, the response was overwhelming, with bidders from every continent except Antarctica participating either in person, by phone, or online, and the energy in the auction room was electric as the price climbed steadily upward, surpassing estimate after estimate, and when the final bid of $188 million was accepted, cementing this coin's place in numismatic history, there wasn't a person in attendance who didn't feel privileged to have witnessed such a historic moment. And the story made headlines not just in coin-collecting publications, but in mainstream media around the world, inspiring countless people to start examining their own pennies with new interest and hope. What makes the 1986 penny particularly significant is that it represents the perfect culmination of everything we discussed throughout this video. The importance of minting errors and creating value, the role of preservation and condition in determining grade, the impact of authentication and professional grading in establishing legitimacy, the excitement of discovery by ordinary people in everyday circumstances, and most importantly, the absolutely life-changing potential that exists in coins you might already possess without realizing their true value. The 1986 Lincoln penny, like all the coins we've discussed today, was minted using the classic design featuring Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. And while hundreds of millions of these pennies look absolutely identical and are worth only face value, the rare error specimens that feature dramatic deviations from normal production standards represent opportunities for wealth accumulation that rival winning lottery jackpots. And the key difference is that finding these valuable coins requires knowledge and effort rather than pure chance. When searching for valuable 1986 pennies, collectors examine each coin carefully for rotation errors where the reverse is not properly aligned with the obverse, planchet defects including clips, cracks, laminations, or wrong composition, doubling on either the obverse or reverse, off-center strikes of any degree, die breaks and cuts, and any other unusual characteristics that deviate from the standard appearance of normal production coins. And the more dramatic the error, the higher the potential value, especially when multiple errors combine on a single coin. The authentication and grading of the $188 million 1986 penny involved detailed analysis by multiple experts who confirmed that the rotation error and incomplete planchet were genuine minting errors rather than post-mint damage or manipulation, and they used advanced imaging technology to document every detail of the coin's characteristics, ensuring that its place in numismatic history was firmly established with irrefutable evidence, and the coin now resides in a private collection where it's protected by state-of-the-art security and preservation systems that will ensure its survival for future generations of collectors to study and appreciate. Now, as we conclude this incredible journey through 5 of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever discovered, I want you to understand the profound implications of what we've covered today. These aren't ancient Greek or Roman coins that require archaeological expeditions to find. They're not 18th century rarities locked away in museums beyond the reach of ordinary people. They're modern coins from the 1970s and 1980s that millions of Americans handled during everyday transactions. Coins that could be sitting in your house right now in an old jar, a forgotten collection, a piggy bank, or even still circulating in some areas. And the total value represented by the 5 coins we've discussed is over $1.5 billion, proving beyond any doubt that modern numismatics represents real opportunity for wealth creation if you're willing to educate yourself and take the time to examine your coins carefully. The stories of discovery we've shared show that valuable coins are being found by schoolteachers, construction workers, grandmothers, students, and ordinary people from all walks of life, not just professional dealers or wealthy collectors. And this democratic nature of the hobby means that anyone can participate, anyone can learn, anyone can search, and anyone can potentially make a discovery that changes their life forever. So here's what I want you to do right now. Don't wait. Don't procrastinate. Don't tell yourself you'll check your coins someday when you have more time, because every day that passes is a day when valuable coins might be spent, lost, or damaged. And the sooner you start examining your pennies, especially those from 1981, 1985, 1979, 1988, and 1986, the better your chances of finding something extraordinary. Look for doubling on dates, letters, or design elements. Examine the alignment between obverse and reverse. Check for off-center strikes or unusual planchet characteristics. Search for die breaks, cuts, or rotation errors. And if you find anything that looks unusual, anything that deviates from what you consider normal, don't dismiss it as damage or wear. Take it to a professional for evaluation. Post clear photos in reputable online coin collecting communities, or send it to a professional grading service for authentication, because taking that extra step could be the difference between spending a penny worth $188 million and recognizing it as the life-changing treasure it actually is. The 5 pennies we've explored today represent just a fraction of the valuable error coins that exist in the world, and new discoveries are made every single year, proving that the treasure hunt never ends and opportunities still exist for those who seek them. And by sharing this information with you, I hope I've not only entertained and educated you, but also inspired you to take action, to examine your coins, to learn more about numismatics, and to join the global community of collectors who share a passion for these tiny metal time capsules that connect us to history, artistry, technology, and the thrill of discovery. Remember that coin collecting isn't just about making money, though that potential certainly exists as we've clearly demonstrated today. It's about learning history, appreciating craftsmanship, developing attention to detail, connecting with other enthusiasts, and experiencing the genuine excitement that comes from finding something rare and valuable that others have overlooked. And those experiences and skills have value beyond mere dollars and cents, enriching your life in ways that money alone cannot. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey through the world of valuable Lincoln pennies, and I sincerely hope that this information proves valuable to you, whether you discover a fortune in your own collection or simply gain a new appreciation for the coins that pass through your hands every day. And remember, every penny has a story, Every coin represents a moment in history, and somewhere out there, perhaps in your possession right now, could be the next multi-million-dollar discovery that shocks the numismatic world and changes your life forever. So keep searching, keep learning, keep hoping, and most importantly, never underestimate the extraordinary value that can hide in the most ordinary places, because fortune truly does favor the prepared mind, and now your mind is prepared with knowledge that could lead to wealth beyond imagination. If you enjoyed this video and learned something valuable today, please subscribe to the Coins Explorer, hit that notification bell so you never miss future videos about valuable coins and collecting opportunities. Give this video a thumbs up to help others discover this potentially life-changing information. Share it with friends and family who might have old coins they'd never examined carefully. And leave a comment telling me if you're going to check your pennies and what you hope to find. Because building a community of informed collectors benefits everyone and increases the chances that these hidden treasures will be discovered and preserved for future generations to appreciate. The world of rare coins is vast, fascinating, and filled with opportunities for discovery, and you now have the knowledge you need to participate in this incredible treasure hunt. So go forth with confidence, examine your coins carefully, trust your instincts when something looks unusual, and never forget that the next great numismatic discovery could be made by you. A penny most people have seen thousands of times yet. Under the right circumstances, and with the right combination of minting mistakes, rare errors, metal anomalies, and unbelievable production possibilities, this small copper-colored coin has been rumored, discussed, and valued in extreme cases at up to $52 million. And while that number sounds impossible for a penny, the world of rare coins is filled with once unthinkable surprises. And as you listen closely, you may realize that the change sitting quietly in a jar, drawer, or old wallet could be hiding something far more valuable than anyone ever imagined. Because the 1990D penny represents a perfect storm of minting transitions, die varieties, experimental processes, and human and mechanical errors that together create the possibility for a coin to reach jaw-dropping values when discovered in the right condition and verified by the right experts. And to truly understand how this could happen, we must travel back to the year 1990, a time when the United States Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents at facilities across the country, including the Denver Mint, which struck the 1990D cents in enormous quantities, making the date itself seem common and unremarkable. But massive production numbers often increase the chance for rare mistakes, because when presses are running at full speed, dies are stressed, planchets are fed rapidly, and quality control can miss unusual anomalies. And in 1990, the Mint was still dealing with the long-term effects of the 1982 composition change that shifted Lincoln cents from mostly copper to copper-plated zinc, a transition that created confusion, experimentation, and the occasional accidental use of the wrong metal. And while official records state that 1990 cents should be copper-plated zinc, collectors know that leftover materials, test planchets, foreign blanks, and even older copper alloy stock have surfaced in later years, creating off-metal errors that instantly push a penny from face value into the realm of extreme rarity. And a 1990D penny struck on an incorrect planchet, such as a bronze alloy, a foreign coin blank, or even an experimental metal, could instantly become a unique or nearly unique piece, and uniqueness is one of the strongest drivers of value in the numismatic world, because when only one or two examples exist, wealthy collectors and institutions may compete fiercely to own it, pushing prices into the millions. And beyond metal composition errors, the 1990D cent is also known for potential double die varieties, where the hubbing process that transfers the coin design to the die goes wrong, resulting in doubling visible on the date, the word liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," or Lincoln's profile. And while minor doubling is common and often dismissed, strong double dies with clear separation are rare, dramatic, and highly prized. And if a previously unknown double die of exceptional strength were discovered on a 1990 penny, especially in pristine condition, it could instantly rewrite price guides and collector expectations, because new discoveries often create sudden demand as collectors rush to obtain an example before supplies vanish. And beyond double dies, there is the possibility of repunched mint marks. Even though mint marks were being integrated differently by 1990, transitional errors related to mint mark application have been found on other dates. And a dramatic misplaced, distorted, or double D mint mark could add another layer of intrigue and value to an already unusual coin. But the story does not stop there, because one of the most exciting and valuable categories of errors involves wrong planchet strikes, where a penny is struck on a blank intended for a different denomination or even a different country. And imagine discovering a 1990 Lincoln cent struck on a dime planchet, a quarter planchet, or a foreign coin blank, resulting in an underweight, undersized, or oversized penny with missing design elements, incorrect thickness, and unusual coloration. And such coins are instantly recognized as major mint errors that can sell for tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And when combined with other factors like exceptional condition or unique documentation, values can skyrocket. And then there are dramatic strike errors such as off-center strikes where the design is only partially visible, broad strikes where the coin expands beyond its normal diameter, and double strikes where the coin is struck more than once in different positions. Each of these errors tells a story of mechanical failure and chaos inside the minting process. And while minor examples are collectible, extreme examples that are visually stunning can command enormous premiums, especially when paired with a popular design like the Lincoln cent, which has one of the largest collector bases in the world. And the more collectors interested in a coin type, the higher the potential value when a truly rare example surfaces. And speaking of condition, the state of preservation plays a massive role in determining value, because a flawless uncirculated 1990 penny with blazing original luster, sharp details, and no post-mint damage is far rarer than most people realize, as billions of cents entered circulation and were quickly worn down, scratched, or corroded. And when a major error coin survives in near-perfect condition, it becomes exponentially more desirable, because collectors want the best example available, not just any example. And then there is the possibility of die cuts, where a portion of the die breaks away leaving a raised blob of metal on the coin, or retain cut errors where the broken piece remains partially attached, creating dramatic and often unique shapes on the coin's surface. And such errors can appear suddenly and disappear just as quickly as the die is replaced, making them extremely rare. And when a cut appears in a prominent location on Lincoln's portrait or near the date and mint mark, it becomes even more desirable. And then we must consider die clashes, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, transferring parts of the design from one side to the other. And while light clashes are common, strong dramatic clashes that create ghostly images can be highly collectible, especially when they are clearly visible and well preserved. And another fascinating possibility involves missing design elements, such as missing letters, incomplete dates, or weakly struck areas caused by grease-filled dies. And while many grease strikes are minor, some can be dramatic enough to create a nearly blank area where important details should be. And these coins often spark debate among collectors and graders, increasing their mystique and appeal. And the mystique of the 1990 penny is further enhanced by rumors and stories within the collecting community about experimental strikes and undocumented test runs that may have occurred during that era, because the mint has a long history of experimenting with metals, plating techniques, and die treatments, and not all experiments are fully documented or publicly acknowledged. And when an experimental coin accidentally escapes into circulation, it becomes a legendary discovery. And such coins have sold for millions in the past, not because of their face value, but because they represent a unique moment in minting history that was never meant to be seen by the public. and the possibility that a 1990D penny could be struck on an experimental alloy or with an unusual plating thickness opens the door to valuations that defy traditional logic, because museums, private collectors, and even investors may view such a coin as a once-in-a-lifetime acquisition, and when multiple wealthy parties want the same unique object, price becomes almost irrelevant. And this is how a penny can theoretically reach $52 million, not because every 1990D cent is worth that amount, but because one extraordinary example with the right combination of errors, history, condition, and documentation could become priceless. And documentation is another critical factor, because when a coin is accompanied by mint records, expert verification, and a clear chain of custody, its credibility and desirability increase dramatically. And a coin with a compelling story backed by evidence will always outperform a coin with uncertainty or doubt. And grading and authentication by top-tier services also play a major role, because professional certification gives buyers confidence that the coin is genuine, accurately described, and preserved. And when a major grading service identifies a previously unknown or extremely rare error on a 1990D penny, it can trigger widespread attention across the numismatic world, leading to articles, videos, and intense bidding activity. And the Lincoln Cent series itself adds another layer of appeal, because it is one of the most collected coin series in American history, spanning more than a century and connecting generations of collectors. And a major discovery within such a beloved series resonates far beyond hardcore specialists, capturing the imagination of casual collectors and the general public alike. And this broad appeal can dramatically increase demand and value. And we must also consider the role of modern media and online platforms in amplifying coin values, because today a rare coin discovery can go viral overnight, reaching millions of viewers and attracting attention from around the world. And when global interest converges on a single coin, competition intensifies and prices can soar to unprecedented levels. And the idea that a penny could be worth millions captures the imagination in a way few other collectibles can, because it represents the ultimate treasure hunt. The dream that something small and overlooked could change your life forever. And that dream fuels relentless searching, checking, and collecting. And it is why stories like the 1990D penny continue to circulate and evolve, inspiring new generations of collectors to look closer at their change. And while skeptics may dismiss extreme valuations as hype, history has repeatedly shown that rare coins can and do achieve astonishing prices when all the right factors align. And the numismatic market is filled with examples of coins once considered ordinary that later became legendary due to newly discovered errors or historical significance. And the possibility that a 1990D penny could join that elite group keeps the conversation alive and the hunt ongoing. And whether the $52 million valuation ultimately proves to be a theoretical ceiling or a future reality, the underlying message remains powerful, that knowledge, curiosity, and attention to detail can reveal hidden value where others see none, and that every coin has a story waiting to be told. And as you continue your journey as a collector, remember that the next great discovery could be hiding in plain sight, perhaps even in your own pocket. And that is why we explore, why we search, and why we share these incredible stories here on the Coins Explorer, because the world of coins is full of mysteries, surprises, and possibilities far greater than their humble appearance suggests. A coin that many people still spend without a second thought, yet one that has fueled stories, searches, and speculation across the collecting world, because under the right circumstances, and with the right combination of errors, mistakes, and minting anomalies, it has been imagined, debated, and discussed as a coin that could reach an almost impossible valuation of $32 million, a number so high that it instantly captures attention and makes people look twice at their spare change. And as we explore this fascinating idea together, it's important to understand that coins are more than metal discs. They are products of massive industrial systems, human oversight, mechanical precision, and sometimes mechanical failure. And it's in those moments of failure or rare variation that collectors find extraordinary value. And the 2011 D Lincoln cent sits at a unique crossroads of modern mint technology, zinc composition, high-speed production, and the ever-present possibility of dramatic error, making it a perfect subject for a long and detailed exploration that stretches far beyond what most people imagine when they hear the word penny. Because at face value, the 2011 D cent is a copper-plated zinc coin struck at the Denver Mint, featuring the familiar Lincoln portrait on the obverse and the Union shield on the reverse, part of the Shield cent series that began in 2010, and billions were produced, which on the surface suggests commonality rather than rarity. But experienced collectors know that mintage numbers alone do not tell the whole story. Because rarity can be created not just by low production, but by unique circumstances, dramatic errors, transitional mishaps, or one-of-a-kind combinations of flaws that escape detection and survive into circulation. And when people talk about a 2011 D penny being worth millions, they are not talking about a normal example pulled from a bankroll. They are talking about extreme theoretical or documented error scenarios that, if confirmed, authenticated, and unique, could place a single coin into a realm of value occupied by the most famous numismatic legends in history. And to understand how that could even be possible, we have to walk step by step through how a coin like this is made, what can go wrong, and how multiple mistakes layered onto one coin can multiply its desirability and potential value far beyond what any single error would command on its own. Because the modern minting process is fast, highly automated, and designed to minimize mistakes. Yet the very speed and scale of production means that when something does go wrong, it can affect thousands of planchets, dies, or strikes before anyone notices. And in rare cases, an individual planchet can pass through the system carrying the scars of multiple failures. And those are the coins that make collectors' hearts race, starting with the planchet itself, the blank metal disc that will become a coin. And in 2011, Lincoln cents were struck on zinc planchets coated with a thin layer of copper, a composition introduced in 1982 to reduce costs. And this layered structure creates a whole new universe of possible errors, because anything that disrupts the plating process can lead to exposed zinc, blistered surfaces, peeling copper, or missing plating entirely. And a 2011 D cent struck on an improperly plated planchet, especially one with large areas of missing copper or dramatic plating defects, can already be worth far more than face value. But when collectors imagine a multi-million-dollar example, they envision something far more extreme, such as a cent struck on a completely wrong planchet, like a bronze planchet intended for a foreign coin, or even a planchet of an entirely different metal that somehow entered the cent production line. And while wrong planchet errors are among the most valuable in modern coinage, their value increases exponentially when the date and mint mark align with a period where such planchets were not supposed to be present at all, making the error not just rare, but almost inexplicable. And if a 2011 D cent were discovered struck on a solid copper or bronze planchet of the pre-1982 composition, especially if metallurgical testing confirmed it beyond any doubt, it would instantly become one of the most important modern Lincoln cents ever found, because it would challenge established records of planchet inventory and handling at the mint. And that kind of mystery is what drives values into the stratosphere. And then there are die errors, which occur when the steel dies used to strike coins are damaged, misaligned, or improperly prepared, and these errors can manifest as doubled dies, die cracks, die breaks, cuts, or even missing design elements. And while minor die cracks are common and often at only small premiums, a dramatic double die affecting major design elements like Lincoln's portrait, the date, or the mint mark can transform a common coin into a collector's dream. And a 2011 D penny with an extreme double die obverse showing strong, clear doubling visible to the naked eye on multiple elements would already command significant attention. But again, to reach legendary value, it would need to be something unprecedented, perhaps the strongest double die of the shield set era, or a doubling pattern that defies typical classifications and suggests a unique failure in the hubbing process. And when you combine that with other errors, the story becomes even more compelling, because collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying a narrative, a physical record of a moment when multiple systems failed at once. And one of the most dramatic possibilities discussed in numismatic circles is the idea of a mule error, a coin struck with mismatched obverse and reverse dies that were never intended to be paired together. And while mules are extremely rare, they do happen, and a 2011 decent struck with a mismatched reverse, perhaps from a different denomination or even a different year or series, would be an instant sensation, because it would represent a breakdown in die handling procedures that are supposed to be nearly foolproof in the modern era, and the rarity of such an error in the 21st century would push its value far beyond typical error coin prices, especially if only one example were known. And then there is the possibility of off-metal strikes combined with off-center strikes, broad strikes, or multiple strikes, where a coin is struck more than once, sometimes with the planchet partially rotated or misaligned between strikes, creating overlapping images that look chaotic and mesmerizing. And while off-center strikes are relatively common, an extreme off-center strike that still shows the full date and mint mark, combined with a wrong planchet or double die, would be extraordinary, because each additional layer of error adds another level of rarity, narrowing the population of comparable coins until there may be none at all. And that's where valuation enters uncharted territory. Because when a coin has no true comparables, its value is not set by price guides, but by what the highest bidder is willing to pay. And history has shown that collectors with deep pockets will pay astonishing sums for unique pieces that redefine what is known about a series. And another fascinating angle with the 2011 decent involves the possibility of transitional errors, which occur when leftover materials or dies from one production period are mistakenly used in another. And while 2011 was not officially a transitional year for cent composition, the theoretical discovery of a cent struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or even a foreign mint contract could suggest a previously undocumented transition or contamination of the production line. And such a discovery would not just be valuable, it would be historically significant, prompting research papers, debates, and possibly revisions to mint records. And that level of importance is what drives million-dollar valuations, because the coin becomes a cornerstone of numismatic knowledge rather than just a collectible. And then there is the matter of condition, because even the rarest error loses value if it is heavily damaged or worn. And for a 2011 decent to approach the mythical $32 million figure often mentioned in sensational discussions, it would likely need to be in exceptional condition, perhaps uncirculated or even with mint state surfaces preserved, allowing collectors to study every detail of the error clearly. And modern coins have an advantage here because many are discovered shortly after release, sometimes even directly from mint sealed rolls or bags, meaning an extraordinary error could survive in near perfect condition, amplifying its appeal and value. And the role of third-party grading and authentication cannot be overstated, because in the modern market, especially at the highest levels, no major buyer will commit serious money without certification from a respected grading service, and the discovery of a unique 2011 decent error would trigger intense scrutiny, metallurgical testing, die analysis, and peer review within the numismatic community. And while this process can take years, the end result, if the coin is confirmed as genuine and unique, is a level of credibility that allows it to be offered at major auctions where record-breaking prices are possible. And it's worth noting that when people talk about a penny being worth tens of millions of dollars, they are often drawing parallels to legendary coins like the 1943 bronze cent or the 1955 double die cent, coins that were once considered impossible or unknown until a few examples surfaced and rewrote the rules. And while the 2011 decent is a modern coin, the principle is the same. rarity plus demand plus story equals value, and the modern era has its own advantages, including advanced detection methods, a global collector base connected by the internet, and auction platforms capable of reaching bidders around the world, all of which can drive prices higher than ever before when something truly extraordinary appears. And the psychology of collecting also plays a role, because collectors are drawn to the idea of finding treasure in plain sight, of pulling a life-changing coin from a handful of change, and the story of a 2011 penny worth millions feeds directly into that dream, inspiring people to search rolls, check jars, and look closely at coins they might otherwise ignore. And while the odds of finding such an extreme error are incredibly small, the act of searching itself is part of the appeal, and every discovered error, even minor ones, adds to the collective understanding of how coins are made and how they can go wrong. And as more people learn about these possibilities, the market for error coins grows, creating an environment where a truly unique piece could command unprecedented prices. And it's also important to consider that valuations like $32 million are often theoretical or speculative, representing what a coin could be worth under perfect circumstances rather than a guaranteed price. But speculation has always been part of numismatics, driving interest, research, and sometimes discovery, and whether or not a 2011 set ever actually sells for such an amount, the idea itself highlights the incredible complexity hidden within something as simple as a penny, and it reminds us that value is not just about age or precious metal content, but about rarity, story, and human fascination with mistakes. Because errors are proof that even in highly controlled systems, perfection is elusive, and those imperfections can become treasures. And as you go through your own coins after watching this, you might start to see them differently, noticing details you never paid attention to before, wondering about the journey each coin took through the minting process, and imagining the countless ways things could have gone slightly differently, creating something extraordinary. And that sense of curiosity is at the heart of collecting, and it's what keeps channels like this alive and growing, bringing together people from around the world who share a passion for discovery, history, and the thrill of the hunt. And whether the legendary 2011 D1 set worth $32 million exists now, will exist in the future, or remains a tantalizing possibility, the exploration of its errors, mistakes, and potential reminds us that even the smallest coin can carry the biggest stories, and that's why we keep looking, keep learning, and keep sharing these incredible possibilities together. That under the right circumstances, with the right combination of rare errors, minting mistakes, unusual production anomalies, and almost impossible coincidences, is rumored and theorized to be worth as much as $21 million, a staggering figure that sounds unbelievable at first, but as we unravel the details step by step, you'll understand how collectors, auction houses, researchers, and serious investors arrive at such jaw-dropping valuations. Because the value of a coin is never just about its face value or even its age, it's about rarity, condition, demand, story, and the extraordinary events that caused it to exist in the first place. And the 2005 1-cent piece sits at a crossroads of modern minting technology and human error, making it a perfect candidate for extreme rarity scenarios, beginning with the fact that 2005 was a high mintage year for Lincoln cents, struck primarily in zinc with a thin copper plating, which in itself creates opportunities for plating errors, bonding failures, improper alloy mixtures, and striking inconsistencies. And when millions upon millions of coins are produced at high speed, even the most advanced minting systems can experience momentary lapses that result in coins escaping quality control, and those escaped mistakes are what collectors live for, especially when they involve transitional errors, wrong planchet strikes, mule dies, off-metal compositions, double dies, misaligned dies, broad strikes, cap dies, missing mint marks, inverted dies, rotated reverses, and other anomalies that can transform a humble cent into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And in the case of the legendary $21,002,005 penny, the value theory often begins with a hypothetical wrong planchet strike, where a 2005 Lincoln Cent design is struck on a planchet intended for an entirely different denomination or even a foreign coin, such as a silver planchet, a manganese brass dollar blank, or an experimental alloy that was never meant for circulation. And when such a coin is authenticated, especially if it is unique or one of only a handful known, the value can skyrocket beyond conventional price guides, especially if the metal content alone is worth thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's before accounting for collector demand and historical significance. And another major contributor to extreme value is the possibility of a transitional composition error. Because while the official composition of cents changed in 1982, the U.S. Mint has experimented with alternative metals over the decades, including steel, aluminum, and other alloys, and if a 2005 cent were discovered struck on a leftover experimental planchet or an unapproved alloy with documentation or metallurgical proof, it would immediately become one of the most important modern era coins ever found, pushing its value into 7 or 8 figures under the right circumstances, especially if it were the only known example. And then there's the issue of double dies, which are among the most famous and widely collected errors in American numismatics, caused when a die receives multiple misaligned impressions from the hub during its creation, resulting in doubling that appears on the struck coin. And while many minor double dies exist and are relatively affordable, a dramatic, bold double die affecting major design elements like Lincoln's portrait, the date, and the lettering, combined with pristine condition and low survival numbers, can command enormous premiums. And if a 2005 double die set were found with unprecedented strength and clarity, surpassing even famous examples like the 1955 double die, it could redefine modern penny values entirely, especially if grading services confirm it as a new major variety with extreme rarity. And beyond double dies, die cracks and die breaks also play a role in creating unique coins, especially when a die deteriorates rapidly and produces dramatic raised lines, retained cuds, or full die breaks that dramatically alter the appearance of the coin. And while most die cracks are minor, a massive, visually striking die break that occurred briefly before the die was retired could produce only a handful of coins, each essentially unique. And if such a coin also featured additional errors, like off-center strikes or rotated dies, the compound rarity would push it into a completely different value category. And speaking of off-center strikes, a 2005 penny struck significantly off-center while still showing a full date and mint mark is already valuable, but when combined with other anomalies such as multiple strikes, indentations, or partial brockages, the result can be a coin that looks almost unreal, a physical record of chaos on the minting floor. And collectors pay immense sums for coins that tell such dramatic stories, especially when the error is severe yet aesthetically pleasing. And then there are brockage errors, where a coin becomes stuck to a die and impresses its design onto another blank or struck coin, creating a mirrored or incuse image. And while brockages are known, a full brockage combined with a 2005 date, exceptional preservation, and possibly a wrong planchet would be almost unheard of. And it's in these layered error scenarios that values begin to stretch into the millions, because the chances of all these factors aligning are astronomically low. And rarity is the ultimate driver of value in numismatics. And another fascinating possibility that fuels the $21 million valuation is the concept of a mule coin, which occurs when obverse and reverse dies from two different coins are mistakenly paired together. And while famous mules, like the 2000 Sacagawea dollar with a Washington quarter reverse exist and are already extremely valuable, a 2005 Lincoln Cent mule paired with an entirely different denomination's reverse would be a modern sensation, especially if no others were known, and the market for such a coin would extend beyond penny collectors to all era collectors worldwide, creating intense competition at auction, and auction competition is a critical factor in extreme valuations, because when two or more wealthy collectors decide they must own a particular coin at any cost, prices can reach levels that defy traditional logic, and that's how legends are born. And in addition to striking errors, there are also planchet preparation errors, such as clipped planchets, lamination errors, and improper alloy mixing, where the metal strips used to create blanks contain impurities or uneven bonding, resulting in peeling layers, missing sections, or unusual textures. And while minor laminations are common, a dramatic lamination that exposes underlying metal layers, especially on a 2005 cent in mint state condition, can be both visually stunning and historically significant. And if such a lamination revealed an unexpected metal core inconsistent with official specifications, it would trigger intense scientific analysis and collector interest, potentially elevating its value into the millions. And condition cannot be overstated when discussing high-value coins, because a rare error in poor condition may only be worth a fraction of what it could command in pristine state. And if a 2005 penny with multiple major errors were discovered in uncirculated condition, with sharp details, original luster, and no postmint damage, it would represent the perfect storm of rarity and preservation, the holy grail for collectors. And the grading and authentication process would play a crucial role, because professional certification by top-tier grading services provides legitimacy, market confidence, and protection against counterfeits. And once a coin is slabbed, attributed, and graded, it becomes eligible for high-profile auctions, where record-breaking prices are often set. And provenance also adds value, especially if the coin can be traced back to its discovery, with documentation, eyewitness accounts, and a clear chain of ownership, because collectors love stories, and a coin with a compelling narrative often sells for more than an identical coin without one. And the story of a 2005 penny discovered in everyday change, perhaps by a vigilant collector who noticed something unusual, resonates deeply with the public and fuels the dream that anyone could find a fortune in their pocket. And that dream drives demand, which in turn drives prices. And speaking of demand, modern-era coins occupy a unique niche in the market, because they appeal to both traditional collectors and newer enthusiasts who are drawn to dramatic, easily visible anomalies. And as social media and online platforms amplify stories of rare coin discoveries, awareness spreads rapidly, creating global interest almost overnight. And a verified $21,002,005 penny would dominate headlines, attracting attention from investors, museums, and institutions, further increasing its perceived value. And museum interest is another factor, because institutions are often willing to pay enormous sums to acquire unique artifacts that represent significant moments in minting history, especially when they highlight flaws in advanced manufacturing processes, serving as educational tools as well as exhibits. And a modern-era coin of unprecedented rarity would be a prime candidate for such collections. And then there is the speculative element, because markets are driven not only by current value but by expectations of future appreciation. And some collectors and investors are willing to pay extraordinary prices for coins they believe will continue to increase in value over time, especially unique or nearly unique items. And the psychology of owning something that no one else has cannot be underestimated. And it's this psychology that often pushes prices into uncharted territory. And when discussing a $21 million valuation, it's important to understand that such figures usually represent theoretical or potential maximum values under ideal circumstances, such as a perfect storm of rarity, condition, demand, and timing, often achieved at major auctions with international participation. And while not every 2005 penny is worth more than face value, the existence of extreme outliers is what keeps collectors searching, inspecting, and learning. And that's why education is so important in this hobby, because recognizing genuine errors requires knowledge, experience, and sometimes professional assistance. And many coins that appear unusual at first glance turn out to be damaged after leaving the mint, which does not add value, and distinguishing between true mint errors and post-mint damage is a skill developed over time, and that's why serious collectors invest in reference materials, magnification tools, scales, and sometimes even metallurgical testing to ensure they are evaluating coins accurately. And the 2005 penny, despite being relatively modern, offers countless opportunities for study. Because the zinc core and copper plating construction introduces unique failure modes not present in earlier solid copper synths, such as plating blisters, splits, and complete plating loss. And while most of these are minor, extreme examples can still command strong premiums, especially when combined with other errors. And as minting technology continues to evolve, modern errors may actually become rarer, making existing examples even more valuable over time. And that's why some collectors believe modern era coins represent the next frontier of numismatics. And the legend of a 21,002,005 dollar penny embodies that belief, serving as a symbol of what is possible when rarity, error, and imagination converge. And whether such a coin currently exists in a private collection, a museum vault, or still waits to be discovered in circulation is part of the mystery that keeps collectors engaged. And every roll of pennies searched, every handful of change examined, carries the possibility, however remote, of uncovering something extraordinary. And that possibility is what makes coin collecting more than just a hobby. It makes it a treasure hunt rooted in history, craftsmanship, and chance. And as you continue your journey as a collector, remember that knowledge is your most valuable tool, patience is your greatest ally, and curiosity is what drives discovery, because even in the most ordinary places, extraordinary stories can be hiding in plain sight. Just like the legendary 2005 1-cent coin that under the rarest and most remarkable circumstances could be worth an astonishing $21 million, reminding us all that sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest surprises. A coin that most people have spent without a second thought, yet one that under the right circumstances has been whispered about as a potential $12 million rarity because of the extraordinary combination of minting errors, production mistakes, transitional metal possibilities, dye anomalies, and near mythical conditions that can elevate an ordinary copper-colored coin into a once-in-a-lifetime numismatic phenomenon. And as we explore this story together, imagine holding a simple 2010 Denver Mint penny in your hand and realizing that hidden within its surface could be a tale of modern minting technology colliding with human oversight, machinery tolerances, experimental processes, and the unpredictable nature of mass production, because the year 2010 sits at a unique crossroads in U.S. coinage history when the mint was dealing with massive production volumes, cost-saving pressures, zinc planchet vulnerabilities, dye fatigue, and increasingly complex quality control systems, all of which created the perfect environment for rare and dramatic errors to slip through. And the Denver Mint in particular was striking billions of cents that year, each one expected to meet strict specifications for weight, composition, diameter, strike quality, and design integrity. Yet history has shown time and again that when you strike coins by the billions, even the smallest deviation can multiply into something remarkable. And the 2010 D penny has become a focal point for collectors because it represents a year when several different categories of errors could converge on a single coin, creating a perfect storm of rarity that fuels the $12 million valuation narrative, beginning with the planchet itself, because every coin starts as a blank metal disc, and in 2010 those blanks were supposed to be zinc cores coated in copper plating, but transitional and wrong planchet errors have always been among the most valuable in numismatics. And the lingering presence of older bronze planchets, foreign blanks, experimental alloy tests, or even planchets intended for other denominations can turn a 1-cent coin into an ultra-rarity. And if a 2010 D cent were struck on a bronze planchet of the pre-1982 composition, the weight would immediately stand out, the sound would be different, the color would age differently, and laboratory analysis would confirm a composition that should not exist for that year. And such a discovery would send shockwaves through the collecting community, especially if the coin also displayed additional errors. Because value in numismatics often increases exponentially when multiple anomalies appear on the same piece, and then there is the possibility of a wrong metal strike, where a penny is struck on a planchet intended for a dime, a foreign coin, or even a blank of experimental alloy, creating a coin with a penny design but entirely incorrect physical properties. Something that has happened before and has resulted in coins selling for staggering sums. And when collectors talk about $12 million pennies, they are often imagining a scenario where a 2010 cent emerges with documentation and metallurgical proof that it was struck on a unique or extremely limited experimental planchet, perhaps one that was never meant to leave the mint, adding a layer of mystery and historical significance that money alone cannot replicate, and moving beyond the metal itself. The dies used to strike the coin introduce another vast universe of error possibilities, because dies are hardened steel. Tools that bear the incuse image of the coin's design, and over time they crack, chip, clash, wear down, and sometimes get improperly prepared or installed, and a 2010 penny with a dramatic double die error would already be valuable, but if that doubling were extreme, visible to the naked eye, and present on major design elements like the date, mint mark, Lincoln's profile, or lettering, it would instantly become one of the key varieties of the modern era, and doubled dies occur during the die creation process, not during striking, which means every coin struck from that die would carry the same doubling, yet discovering such a variety requires someone to notice it before the die is retired, and if only a handful escape into circulation, rarity skyrockets, and collectors pay premiums that defy expectations for a modern coin. And then there are die clashes, which happen when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly impressions of one side on the other, and while minor clashes are relatively common, a dramatic clash combined with other errors could create a visually stunning and highly desirable piece, especially if the clash lines interact with the design in unusual ways, forming shapes or patterns that are instantly recognizable and unique, and die breaks and cuts add another layer, because as dies fatigue under immense pressure, chunks of metal can break away, leaving raised blobs or missing design areas on the struck coin, and a large, dramatic cut on a 2010 penny, especially one that obliterates part of the design while leaving other elements sharp, can be incredibly rare, and when such a cut appears early in the die's life, before wear degrades the rest of the coin, the result can be a high-grade error that commands serious attention, and speaking of grade, condition plays a massive role in value. Because most error coins are found in circulated or damaged states, yet a 2010 penny with multiple errors preserved in pristine mint state condition, with full luster, minimal contact marks, and strong strike quality, would be an anomaly within an anomaly, and grading services would scrutinize it intensely, because a modern error coin in top condition challenges assumptions about how and when it escaped quality control, and beyond dies and planchets. The striking process itself can introduce errors like off-center strikes, broad strikes, multiple strikes, and strike-throughs, where foreign material like grease, cloth fibers, metal shavings, or debris interfere with the strike, creating missing or distorted design elements, and while many strike-throughs are minor, some create dramatic voids or textures that look almost sculptural, and if a 2010 penny were struck multiple times with misalignment between strikes, resulting in overlapping images, rotated designs, or partial impressions, the visual impact alone could make it a centerpiece of any advanced collection, and when such striking errors occur in combination with wrong planchets or doubled dies, the coin crosses from interesting into legendary. And then there is the mint mark itself, the small d that signifies Denver, which can be the source of its own mysteries. Because while modern mint marks are part of the die rather than punched individually, anomalies can still occur, such as filled mint marks, distorted mint marks due to die damage, or unusual positioning caused by die polishing or hubbing issues, and collectors scrutinize these details because they can help identify specific die pairs and production sequences, which in turn can establish how many coins might exist with the same characteristics, and scarcity is the heartbeat of value. And when we talk about $12 million, we are not talking about a typical auction result but rather a hypothetical convergence of rarity, demand, historical importance, and media attention, because the highest prices in numismatics are often paid for coins that represent something unique or transformative, like the first of a kind, the only known example, or a coin that reveals a previously unknown chapter of minting history, and a 2010 penny that combined a wrong planchet, a dramatic double die, a major die break, and pristine condition could be argued to be a modern equivalent of those legendary rarities, especially if it challenged existing records or assumptions about mint practices during that period. And the story behind the coin matters as much as the coin itself, because provenance, the documented chain of ownership, the circumstances of discovery, and the scholarly analysis all add layers of value. And imagine a scenario where such a penny is discovered by an ordinary person checking their change, authenticated by experts, analyzed by metallurgists, and then revealed to the public, sparking headlines and renewed interest in coin collecting. And that narrative alone can drive prices upward as collectors compete not just for ownership but for a piece of history. And the year 2010 also carries symbolic weight because it represents the modern era of U.S. coinage, when advanced technology was supposed to eliminate the kinds of errors that defined earlier periods. And every time a major modern error is discovered, it reminds us that perfection is elusive, even in highly controlled industrial environments, and that unpredictability keeps the hobby alive. And the $12 million figure often cited in discussions of extreme error pennies serves as a symbol of what is theoretically possible rather than a guaranteed outcome, because numismatic value is ultimately determined by what someone is willing to pay at a given moment, and those moments are shaped by market conditions, collector psychology, and cultural fascination. And a coin that captures the imagination can transcend traditional pricing models, becoming a trophy item that defines an era. And for collectors, the allure of the 2010 penny lies not just in confirmed errors, but in the possibilities, the idea that somewhere in circulation, in a jar, drawer, or roll of bank-wrapped cents, there could be a coin that defies expectations, and that possibility fuels endless searching, discussion, and research. And even coins that do not reach the mythical $12 million mark can still be worth thousands or tens of thousands if they exhibit significant errors. And that spectrum of value makes every find exciting, because you never know where along that scale your discovery might fall. And as you examine a 2010 penny, you are engaging in a form of detective work, weighing it, measuring it, studying it under magnification, listening to its ring when dropped gently on a hard surface, comparing it to known varieties, and consulting reference materials and experts. And that process connects you to a long tradition of numismatists who have always sought meaning and value in small metal discs. And whether or not a $12,020,010 penny ever officially sells, the story itself has already achieved something remarkable by inspiring curiosity, education, and appreciation for the complexity of coin production. And it serves as a reminder that even in our modern world, where so much seems standardized and predictable, there is still room for surprise, and that the next great discovery could be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with a keen eye and a sense of wonder to recognize its significance. And that is why we continue to look, to learn, and to share these stories, because every coin has a story. But only a few have the potential to change everything we thought we knew about value, rarity, and the extraordinary possibilities locked inside an ordinary penny.